Anyways, Moni, who is next?
Up next, we've got Dan's the Hunter. He just submitted one that is
All right.
an awesome follow up to our Elune conversation here.
All
So
right.
he's got that theory about Anshe and Elune, and here's what he submitted. I've
Yeah.
always had the theory of Anshe being imprisoned, in my mind, by Elune, but also maybe by someone or something else. Whether it's because of his power, or possibly because early settlers like the Tauren, the Tolvir, or even now Anduin, seeing Anshe as an expression of the Holy Light. Do you think that Blizzard will ever fully put him into the game, and what do you think his role / power could be?
Hmm.
I mean, I gotta give the guy props. That is grade A speculation. That immediately caught my eye.
Yeah, that's making me think now. All right. So here's what I would say about Anshe and Musha, or Anshe and Elune, depending on, right. I would go to folks and fairy tales first, right? So we've known about Anshe and Musha for a really long time. We know that the Tauren worship Anshe and Musha, alongside the Earth Mother. We know that these are stories that the Tauren tell their kids. These are mythologies that exist within Tauren society. And considering how close the Tauren and the Night Elves are, and how close they are in terms of their beliefs, it's always been quite easy and I think convenient for people to say, okay, Anshe, we don't really know, but Musha, almost definitely Elune. It is just their word for Elune. So, same goddess, different words. I think the Tauren should feel very. I guess I just want to throw this out. There was a pretty big slap in the face for Taurens everywhere during Shadowlands. I think a lot of Taurens miss this, but Elune sort of, without reservation, basically admitted that she has a favorite child, and surprise to no one, it's not the cow people. She states quite literally, word for word, verbatim to her sister, that she has failed her favorite people. So sorry, cows, but not even Elune likes you. So I guess it's time to delete you out of the game. No one would cry. Even your god doesn't give too much of a fuck about you. But with that said, though, we have the story. Now, the light part is really interesting because it throws a curveball that I have never considered. So let's go back to the Folk and Fairy Tale novel. In Folk and Fairy Tale, the story about Anshe and Musha, or rather the story more sort of aptly named The Lady and the Blue Child, refers to the lady, or the light rather, the sun, as her lover, but that they can never actually be together, right? So the sun just does what he does constantly. He can never come over, he can never come say hello. He's always just sort of far away, doing his own thing, traveling alone, almost happy with the solitude that he has at his disposal. Now, I just assumed that this just meant that the light sort of chose to stay away, but if you start looking at it as, what if the light is locked up? What if the light, or Anshe, is physically incapable of getting to Musha? So think about this from the story perspective. You're a Tauren, so put yourself in a cow's body. You're a Tauren, and you're telling your child about Anshe and Musha, the gods that you worship, right? Anshe is the sun god. Musha is the goddess of the moon. These are very strong elements within your society. A lot of your culture is built on this. Everything, actually, is built on this belief. Now, because you made Anshe the god of the sun, the light, and Musha the god of the moon, the dark, as it were, there has to be a reason for it. Why choose Anshe as the sun god and Musha as the moon god, if not to say that these two can't be together? Because the sun and the moon rarely, if ever, at least fantasy trope-wise, will not exist in the same night, in the same sky. When you can see the sun, you will not see the moon, and when you see the moon, you will not see the sun, except for very rare occasions. But in the real world, in Fantasyland, these two are complete opposites. What if they were chosen as such because Anshe and Musha is physically incapable of being together? And perhaps that is because Anshe is locked up, and Musha cannot find Anshe. Musha doesn't know where to go in order to find Anshe, which is why Musha just exists. Just keeps doing the same thing over and over again, but feels lonely. Feels lonely because she cannot find the love of her life because he's nowhere to be found. Then we have to sort of go even more apeshit and say, okay, wait a second. But why? Who could possibly possess the power to lock up the light? What being could potentially be powerful enough that it could lock up the god of the sun?
Well, I mean, if you go by Steve Newser, it's all back down to the jailer, everything.
What if the thing that locked up Anshe is the reason the jailer was doing what he's doing? The video that I'm currently working on is sort of about Zuval and what exactly it was that he was so afraid of, what exactly it was that he was so hell-bent on stopping. We know that he says that there is something even bigger on the horizon, and that whatever we did to him, the fact that we stopped him, is going to doom us all, right? What if that thing is the thing that locked up Anshe? But I want to go even further and say, what if the thing that we're supposed to be afraid of is the very thing that has made us or have prevented us from seeing gods of the light, or gods of the of life, or even gods of the foul? What if this thing, whatever this thing is, didn't just lock up Anshe, but locked up life, locked up chaos, perhaps even locked up the Shadowlands? There's also the part in the story with Anshe and Musha, the lady and the child, where it speaks about the blue child being away for a while, and the white lady looking for the blue child, but couldn't find the blue child, and one day the blue child returned. Where was the blue child? Why was the blue child away for so long? All of these are questions that we simply do not have answers to. Hopefully we will get those answers at some point. But this is so thin that it's nigh impossible to even speculate on. Because in order to speculate, I would need a couple of breadcrumbs. You know, if I can have a couple of breadcrumbs to start from, And to be fair, this is sort of why Shadowlands was such a frustrating time for myself and other speculators. Because I would constantly get these comments from people saying, dude, we need more speculation from you. Come on, just give us more speculation. Don't worry about the story sucking. Just speculate. And it's like, dude, just speculate isn't... That's not possible. Because a huge part of speculation is finding the breadcrumbs and then following the trail to some kind of natural conclusion. Not the natural conclusion, but some kind of natural conclusion that might also be really cool, and hopefully that does predict a potential future. When you have no breadcrumbs, or the breadcrumbs are so shallow that there really is no trail to follow, it's sort of like, it's circle jerk of breadcrumbs. There's not much that you can speculate on, because I could sit here and I could say, yeah, absolutely, Anshe was locked up by what? We don't even know if Anshe was locked up. Anshe is light. Well, no, maybe, but we don't know this. Elune is the blue child, or perhaps she's the white lady. We don't really know. We think she might be the white lady, but she could also very easily be the blue child. And again, these are things that is very much unknown to us. It does make it very, very difficult to speculate on any of these things, just because there are so few breadcrumbs.
Dan just replied with what he clarified on the locked up part. So just kind of to add to his first comment, he said the locked up part he's speaking of makes him think of this being the Titans doing, mostly A&R. Life/light being unchecked was the only has only ever been seen on Draenor with the Everbloom, the overgrown happening on Azeroth. Yeah, with such an important Titan inside, I don't think they could risk it happening again.
I would argue that I don't know if the Titans have that level of power. I was doing a video today, or editing my video today, where we were talking sort of about power levels in World of Warcraft. So I guess I'll ask you guys in chat a fairly interesting question as far as I'm concerned. And no, the Titans are not first ones. That is ridiculous. I
think I know who asked that.
Yeah, of course it's Apocalypse, because he knows that will trigger the fuck out of me. But would you guys say that the Eternal Ones, the Titans, the Naru, and the Old Gods are on separate power levels? The same power level, increasing power levels? Who would be at the top and who would be at the bottom? If you were to take those characters or those entities in mind and sort of place them on a power scale, how would you place them? I am going to fucking lose it with chat. Because there's now multiple people in chat going, yeah, obviously the Titans are the first ones. You are fucking slow if you think the Titans are the first ones. If it turns out to be true that the Titans are the first ones, I will run fucking naked in the streets, bro. I will record myself stripping down to my fucking birthday suit and running naked in the street. There is no way that Steve Denuser is that bad at writing a fucking story. No fucking dice. I mean, the guy's bad, but fuck me, he's not that bad. I tell you guys what, right? In about fucking 5 minutes, I will give you an exact rundown of why the Titans are not the fucking first ones. But okay, here's how I would place their power levels. I would put Naru and Old Gods on the same power level, because I do think that they are similar. And then I would put Eternal Ones and Titans on the same power level. And I don't think it's even close. I think the Naru and the Old Gods are much closer to Titan Keepers in terms of power level than what they are to Titans in terms of power level. Now, based on that sort of power gap that we see, I would argue that something on the level of Anshe, so Anshe would be to the Titans what the Old Gods are to the Titans. So the Titans would sort of be on the level of the Old Gods to Anshe. So I don't think a creature like Aenar would have the power to lock up Anshe, even if she wanted to. And I think the same for Elune. I think Elune is much more powerful than the Titans.